with attention deficit and people being time poor, if it takes 5 minutes to explain what you do, then you really don't probably have a brand, or you definitely have a mixed message.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand.
Do your presentations stand out? I mean, do they really stand out? If you count on webinars and other online presentations to make money, well, you'll love today's guest. Johnny Beirne is the webinar wizard, and his number one goal is to make your message memorable. Johnny's also a client of ours in full disclosure, and today we'll talk about how he can help you stand out on screen, and we'll also learn a little about his experience throughout his branding journey with us.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, Johnny.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be back with you both. I've been missing you guys, so it's great to see you both again.
It is good to see you again, sir.
We have missed you. We've actually talked about, Johnny just finished our mastermind process where we build the brand top to bottom with several other people in the mastermind. We were such a cohesive group. Everybody was just so awesome in there. And we've talked about having a big reunion, a live stream reunion, and just letting the audience find out about all the members, their journey in the branding process, what they got to know about each other. So stay tuned because that's coming up soon.
Yeah. All right, Johnny, let's talk about Johnny's favorite subject.
Mine too.
Hey, we have the advantage of knowing you and knowing your story, but please share with the audience how and why you got started and what led you down the path that you're doing now and adding wizardry to webinars.
Sure. Yeah. So for over a decade over a decade ago, I started training in social media, driving around the country and outside the country, and just had this kind of fundamental realization that that model is fundamentally flawed, where I was exchanging time for money, and it also became a little bit repetitive. And I even started to forget, let's say if I was giving a course on a Wednesday, did I say this to this group already, or did I say it to the group yesterday? So all sorts of kind of things came together in my mind, at least, and I thought there's got to be a better way. I ended up going to a conference in London. All the speakers were selling digital products. They were scaling. They weren't exchanging time for money, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, this is the life for me. So about 13 years ago, I launched my first online course and have been creating courses and helping people create courses and create more freedom and income and impact at the same time. And then during COVID, I really started to invest in the setup that I have here, which we can briefly talk about. And out of that, demand arose for, can you show us how to do what you're doing for your courses, or does it work in a live environment? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I basically built this little kind of mini studio around me, started to share tips and tricks, and Presentation Transformation was born, which is a product that the Webinar Wizard, aka me, now helps people to do. So I essentially help people address the elephant in the room, as you probably know at this point, which is that a lot of people are not turning up in a way that does them justice. And really, that's what I'm doing right now, helping great experts like yourselves and other people really stand out on screen, do themselves justice, and essentially not leave money on the table purely because they don't look like their brand. I mean, they don't represent themselves in a way that their brand was perceived up to the point of the meeting. And as you know, be your brand, live your brand, show up as your brand is critical. And that's where we're at right now.
I love it. Love the explanation. I think Tanya met with you first, and then Tanya's like, you got to meet this guy. Like, you got to meet this Irish Johnny Beirne. His presentations are insane. He's just like, and of course, at the minute that you did the very thing that you just did, well, let's address the elephant in the room. I thought, man, I love it. Because presentations, like you said and articulated so well, your brand precedes you. We know that. And then you get to the meeting, then your presentation needs to be a continuation of that brand. And I don't know of anybody in our 12 years of doing this that does that better than you.
Thank you.
Very true. And for those of you who missed the elephant in the room and other shenanigans that Johnny will pull out in today's episode, you need to make sure you're looking at the video version of this podcast. And you can definitely pick that up on Apple. You can also pick it up on our YouTube channel. And you can find us on YouTube at BrandFace Star. any other platforms that show this in video, but you got to check it out. So what I really loved about it, Johnny, is there are so many people, especially post-pandemic, that now we're in this online world where, first of all, we say 98% of people meet your brand before they meet you, which is absolutely true. We're a digitized world and they see us somewhere before they actually meet us in person. And then, as Michael said, and you said, when they meet us in person, they need to know that we're a continuation of that person that we've propped up, right? They need to have that presentation be deserving of who they really are and be creative and capture your attention, because the goal is, as Johnny Beirne has so accurately stated, to keep them till the end of that presentation.
Mhm.
And actually have that person stand out. And the whole purpose of this is getting them more opportunities to do business. Because let's just say, if I've been on a panel before, and we've been on panels where our direct competitors have been on those panels, had we had your wizardry available at the moment and your guidance, we would have outshone everybody on that panel and we would have been remembered overall. Now, of course, we all like to think we're going to be remembered anyway, right? But why not make sure you're going to be remembered?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us, Johnny, who are you best suited to serve? Like, who should be working with you right now?
Yeah, so primarily it's people who rely on webinars to make money. So they're doing webinars on a regular basis. They're selling courses, programs, masterminds, group coaching, one-to-ones, whatever it is. And webinars are a key part of their sales strategy. So they're best placed to work with me because what we help them do is avoid death by PowerPoint. Death by PowerPoint has been a pandemic that's been around for a long time. And now Zoom fatigue, if you put the two of them together, it's like a presentation pandemic. And it's been spread by presenters, and symptoms from the viewer's perspective of this pandemic is boredom, losing the will to live, and in some cases death by PowerPoint. So
Full
I'm
disclaimer.
trying to stop the spread of this presentation pandemic by helping presenters avoid death by PowerPoint and Zoom fatigue. So if we take it that in some cases up to 60% of webinar attendees leave before the end, then they don't see the offer. That's like over half. It's crazy. So one way to make sure they stay to the end is we have to inform, we have to educate, but we have to throw a little bit of engagement and entertainment and what we call pattern interrupt into the mix. So really what it allows people to do is effortlessly transition into their slides without fumbling around saying things like, "Hello now, can you see my screen and can you see my slides?" and all this kind of stuff. It makes us just look unprepared and unprofessional. If we want to disappear and just go through our slides and continue to present, we can do that as well. We can go down through the slides, we can come back, we can reappear and say, "Hey, it's making sense." We can do all sorts of great things with our presentation. We can make people appear beside us if we wish. We can change to a different color background. We can even sometimes walk by waving, really to kind of freak people out because they go, "Did he just walk by himself?" So that's my twin brother, Joe. So it's really all about avoiding death by PowerPoint, getting people to stay to the end so that they see your offer and it genuinely, for a small investment, will put more money on the table because more people will see your offer. It's that simple. And then you can use it for courses, meetings, live streams like right now, making promo videos. So your investment can be used in many different areas as well.
Thank you for that, Johnny, because actually, the presentation and the seamless way your system is able for people to give that presentation is awesome. And also, we thought green screens were the greatest thing that ever lived when they first came out. You remember that thing, Tanya got one, it was like you could put it on your chair, you could be on the moon. And we thought,
green screen circle.
This is insane. This is awesome. And then we tried it, and it was like the worst $50 we ever spent, because the minute you turn this way, half your body's gone and your hands are gone. All of a sudden you're an amputee, and I like all of this different stuff, your hair's green and all. But the Johnny Beirne system doesn't do that. So even down to how that looks virtually makes a huge difference, because we are on a lot of podcasts with people who still use those virtual backgrounds, but they're not using them correctly. So even down to those finite details, your system's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's relatively simple. Like, I mean, I learned the hard way, so my clients don't have to. But it is, I mean, everything's simple when you know how, but it took me a bit of trial and error. But essentially, to use a green screen, it's being far enough away, like a meter, 2 or 3 feet, and ample lighting so that the light is even on the green screen. I mean, if I switch to the green screen, it's the same color green everywhere. And that is really what you need to be doing. But yeah, and you can do so much. I mean, as I said, like I've got lots of things going on, but we can appear inside the slides, as I mentioned, continue to present. You can bring over a browser, have that going on there. That browser can be a whiteboard. Again, you can go back to focusing on the whiteboard. You can zoom right in. You can draw other stuff. I don't know what I'm drawing right now, but I'm just doing it for reference. You can check back in. You can go back to, a kind of animated background, back to the whiteboard. It's all effortless. I kind of call it like maximum engagement with minimum effort. And it actually becomes quite enjoyable for me as the presenter, not just to bring an elephant into the room or Brother Joe, because it's so effortless and it allows you to focus more on your message. And you can see the audience are having a little bit more fun if it's a smaller group and you can see their faces. And that gives you feedback. Like if you're speaking on stage and the audience are having fun, that gives you energy, which is contagious. So it works for both presenter and attendee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that we have piqued the interest of everyone that is listening or watching right now. So I'm going to tee this up for you, Johnny. Before we go into some, questions and conversation about your journey and building your brand with us, I want you to tell people when you work with them, what does that look like? What options do you have in working with them and so forth?
Great. Well, thanks for the opportunity to share this. So 2 ones is done with you and do it yourself. So the do it yourself is essentially that it's a suite of online courses. From simple studio setup is one of the courses, presentation transformation is one of the courses. And that's basically a self-led course, a suite of videos that really walk people through step by step. So we go behind the scenes, as I subtly look down here, but we go behind the scenes and behind the screens, like how to set up a little Stream Deck switch, maybe a teleprompter, where to put the lights, all that kind of good stuff. So that's basically what the courses do. So we walk people through a simple studio setup, the gear, inexpensive, small space, and they can use it all over the place in terms of making courses and streaming live. The other option is to work with me directly, and it's a 3-phase one-to-one. It's the 3Ds. So it's discovery, design, and delivery. So discovery is I just meet you, see what gear you have so that we don't harm the environment even further and throw out stuff that we could already be using. So that's discovery. What room do you have? What budget do you have? What look are you going for? What gear do you already have? Once we find all that out, then we go to design. And that's where we essentially design your little mini home or office studio based on what you have and what you need. And then the third D is delivery or dress rehearsal. So basically, it's working and you practice in front of me. I'm the live studio audience and you're doing a couple of webinar slides. And if something goes wrong, if the elephant doesn't appear in the room for whatever reason or whatever you're using, I can just explain where it went wrong. So it gives people a chance to practice before they go live on the first webinar with their new presentation skills. So it's either pre-record or I work with you on discovery, design, and delivery.
I encourage you guys to do it. If you want to stand out, like if you take all of your time preparing for, trying to get people to presentations, positioning yourself on or in an event where you are presenting, you should go the rest of the way and actually present in a way that they'll never forget your message.
Mm-hmm.
And you will make more money at the end of the day. And that's why we're in business, right? So I have to get a bigger bucket to catch all these shots that are flying out of the sky. There you go.
So I love it all. I really do. I loved it the first time I saw it. Let me ask you, Johnny, what made you decide to go through the BrandFace program?
Well, like we alluded to earlier about people not turning up on screen in a way that does them justice, I just felt my brand, or lack thereof, essentially, was not doing me justice. So coming up with the webinar wizard, coming up with short and punchy bio, coming up with just the terminology that you helped me with, that when people read it, they get it. Okay. So I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, etc., we know what we want to say. We definitely know what we do, but we don't know how to say it. We don't know how to say it in a way that lands and resonates with our ideal client. And sometimes not well, a lot of the time for years, people had to kind of meet me and talk to me for like 10 minutes sometimes, or maybe 5 minutes, and go, now I know what you do. And that doesn't work. I mean, with attention deficit and people being time poor, if it takes 5 minutes to explain what you do, then you really don't probably have a brand, or you definitely have a mixed message. So getting clarity and all of that, and the patience that you showed as well during the journey, because I'm sure I definitely, Michael's got a little bit of gray going on already, as do I. Tanya probably has some after having to work with me, but the patience and understanding and creativity that you brought to me, the language, the wording, the webinar wizard, all that was just invaluable. So that's really
You were a pleasure to work with,
Yes, you
Johnny.
were.
Such a pleasure. And I know, there were moments where it's like, that's not quite right. No, that's not quite right. You need to know that that's normal, right? That's so normal because the brand's number one job is to precede you. Like you said, if they show up and you still have to take 5 minutes to explain what you do, and then your prospect says, oh, now I get it. You've wasted a whole lot of time, and you've also lost a lot of opportunities on the front end if you don't define very clearly who you are, who you serve, what qualifies you to serve them, et cetera, on the front end. And so now that makes your job easier. You can actually show up ready to have a conversation about your client, not necessarily feeling like you have to explain or pitch yourself on that particular call. So that's a huge difference. But going back to you saying several times, we're not quite there yet. No, that story's not quite it. That's not what I meant to say. That's totally normal. So you thinking you gave us a few extra gray hairs? Nope. You're good
I was
to
going
go.
to tell him he caused all this.
Yeah.
I'm going to, if I had my presentation set up, I'd have an old picture of me with no gray hair, and then I'd have to pick this is what Johnny did to me.
Before and after working with Johnny, yeah.
Johnny, you have been such a treat, probably the highlight of all of our masterminds so far. We so enjoyed having you in it. And it's just that cohesive group this last time around was phenomenal. So
Yeah, I don't want to take away from other mastermind groups because we've just had fantastic clients the 12 years we've been doing this. But I got to say, that last one that just wrapped up, that group was so fantastic. And you were a big part of that because, the behind the scenes to the audience, we just had a great time. We laughed, we cut up with each other, we picked at each other, we made fun of each other, but everybody learned.
But we supported each other. We cried together.
Yeah, it was really awesome, I got to say. And John was a big part of that.
Absolutely. Tell me, what was the most eye-opening thing for you as you were going through that personal branding journey?
I guess, yeah. Again, most of the elements I mentioned, I mean, getting the message right so that when people see you on LinkedIn, and not to mention the wonderful job you did on the imagery. I mean, I've got a face that only a mother could love, but I still am happy with how everything turned out. So the imagery and the messaging, the problem I solve, who I solve it for, bringing that all together, that was the big thing for me. As I say, I knew what I wanted to say. I just had no idea really how to say it in a way that would get people to pick up the phone or the keyboard and get in touch, And only, I think last week, somebody reached out on LinkedIn, I need help with webinars. And I know that they were reached out because the Webinar Wizard is now my handle on LinkedIn, and the description is short and simple like myself. So, all of that. I mean, there's tons more, but all of that and more.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. It's good. And we're excited about also doing the back end, right? Because we're going to go through Johnny's program because we want our presentations to be top notch too. I mean, cutting edge.
Yes.
And I really feel like your product is that. Hey, what advice would you give to someone sitting on the fence about whether or not to go through the BrandFace program?
I think people are having a few different thoughts, and if I'm probably a reflection of that. I guess a certain amount of people are thinking, sure, it's good enough. I have a logo that I got done on Fiverr.com or whatever, right? And that's my brand. I got a logo, it looks fine. And, I got a description and a bio on LinkedIn or on my social, and it's good enough. Not realizing that if they made even some small changes, the difference it would make to their bottom line. And that's why we're in business, right? There's probably people who tried kind of branding courses or other masterminds or workshops, and for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. I guess because it wasn't at quality of an experience that you guys bring to the table. So if you're sitting on the fence, it might feel like the pain of doing all this is greater than the pain of where you're at. It's the other way around. And you definitely are leaving money on the table. You're not doing yourself justice. Things we've talked about, if you don't take this masterclass and move forward with your brand, it's just going to, for a lot of people, it could bring a decade, it could bring 20 years of experience into a way that people just understand.
That is great summation. Thank you so much, because it's hard to articulate that sometimes. And personal branding tends to be this ethereal thing to a lot of people. Oh, I have a photo, a logo, tagline, I'm good to go. I'm using my colors consistently, I'm fine. They don't realize that it really is an entire ecosystem. And we do look at 77 different criteria when we personally brand somebody. You don't have to look at it on your end. You don't see all those things. We see it behind the scenes, and we deal with it behind the scenes. And hopefully that process, even though it's a process that makes you think, and some people kind of put it off because, oh, it sounds like hard work, I don't want to think that much. But I think in the end, they realize it actually wasn't hard work. There were times where you wish it was a little easier, but going through that process is truly transformational. And thank you for having confidence to go through that with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the process was like relatively easy. I mean, easy, in fact, because you have a framework. It's really for us as attendees within the group. Two big things. One, it's like coloring by numbers. You ask the right questions that we don't tend to ask ourselves. And the answers, it's like in personal development, we all have the answer. We just don't know what question to ask. And the other thing then is just that during the mastermind, the work was done, as opposed to a load of fluff and then we go off and do homework. I mean, there was homework, which is great because obviously we have to provide input. But the fact that you do the 60-minute session or the 90-minute session and you get shit done, pardon my language, but you really do get stuff done during that time, as opposed to a 90-minute yawn fest, and then we have to spend a week doing homework. So there were two big things that show up for me as I think about it more.
Oh, love to hear that.
Yeah, really do.
That's exactly the reason we did it in that format, because it gets done, and it gets done pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah. So here's a question that we ask all of our guests that are on. If our listeners had the freedom to visit anywhere in the world, what place would you recommend them to visit and why?
Well, they could come to me in Ireland and we could have some fun. Good, clean fun, of course. Where else would I go? God, that's a tough question. I love visiting small European cities off the beaten track, like Riga, which is the capital of Latvia, or, where it's not overcrowded with tourists. Places like that are just, quaint and historical. And like I've done Rome and Paris and London, and they're all great too, but some are kind of the beaten track ones can be quite surprising as well. And nobody is exploited price-wise. It's not overcrowded. It's not a complete tourist trap. So little cities like that in Europe, I think, are definitely worth a visit. And come to Ireland anytime.
That's a good one. I was wondering if you would say that, because I know people can't tell from your accent.
Right.
But I got to say, I took my mom to Ireland. My mom and I went to Ireland like 10 years ago and loved it. I mean, absolutely loved it. So I was wondering if you would say that. Ireland's a beautiful country full of beautiful people.
I can show you how to river dance as well,
Yeah. We would love that. And listen, we're going to plan this. It's on our bucket list to visit Johnny Beirne.
Yeah, there you go. It absolutely is.
Well, Johnny, tell everyone how they can connect with you if they want to do business with you.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So the website's johnnybeirne.com. So it's pronounced burn as in sunburn or any burn, really, B-U-R-N, but it's B-E-I-R-N-E. So johnnybeirne.com. You pop over there, and actually you can get what is proving to be a very valuable resource for people. It's the presentation transformation guide. In fact, it's interactive, which means you can read it online and ask questions as well as get a PDF. So that really gets people on the road to, being able to move from that death by PowerPoint kind of presentation to something that's really going to stand out. So we walk through the little diagram there of the various pieces of equipment, even behind the scenes of what I have, not just in the office, which is kind of a little bit, on the higher end because of what I do, but even to show people what you can have in a very small room in the corner of your home for a couple $100, you can still kind of pull off the same presentation. So that's available for free at johnnybyrne.com. And yeah, would love people to get access to that and ask questions, and I'll personally reply.
Oh, fantastic. Johnny, can't thank you enough. You are part of the BrandFace family now. You might want to get rid of us, but that's not going to happen. We're actually coming to Ireland. So
There you go.
thank you for having confidence in us and allowing us to walk this journey with you.
A pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Johnny.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.